Hello, and welcome to this season of Alter Eagle. We are starting season 1 with the topic of addiction in Butler County. Conversations on the physical side of addiction, trauma, the neuroscience, mental health, and stigma surrounding addiction. Experts, resources, and stories from people who have fought addiction head on. I am your host, Laura Krigo. Let's keep the conversation going. Now a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. For a long time, I suffered with depression and anxiety. I had tried therapy before, but struggled finding a therapist I connected with until I found BetterHelp. That's why I am so excited to share BetterHelp's mission to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, because finding a therapist can be hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online. Remote therapy sessions, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get matched with a therapist. Click the link in description and receive 10% off your first month of BetterHelp. And by clicking that link, you support this channel. Plus, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I was struggling for a long time, and BetterHelp was where I found my therapist, Whitney, who I still see weekly for almost 2 years now. So, if you're struggling like I was, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in description or go to betterhelp.com/alter eagle. That's betterhelp.com/alter eagle. There's no better time than now to start your mental health journey. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this channel. Good morning, good morning. I don't know why I did that. I just felt like singing, I guess, for a second. Maybe it's the triple shot latte from Vintage Coffee. Little plug there for Vintage. I love that place. I love the ambiance in there. I like it how you can go in and it's calm and cool, and then you can go in and it's buzzing and there's people everywhere and the music and the furniture. It's always a matter of, am I going to get a comfy chair or am I going to be sitting at a table and having a serious conversation? No. I don't know what I'm talking about. This is me. This is my personality. I can have the most random thoughts and say them. And I just thought I'd start to let you guys know that about me. We could be having a conversation. You could say something and it could just trigger something. Is anyone else out there like that? If you are, send me a message. I'd like to get to know you. Maybe we can be friends. So today I'm really excited about this episode. The cool thing about Josh is he has found, he's really found his voice. And this episode is something that I think a lot of you men out there are going to enjoy. Josh was in high school. We went to high school together. He was a skateboarder. He was one of the skateboarding dudes. That's how I referred to him. He was a part of that crew. He is still a skateboarder. He rebuilds motorcycles, hangs with his friends, and he works. He's calm. He has the gift of gab. He actually told me that early on, which was very true in this episode, because there was a moment where I'm like, okay, so we're coming up on an hour. But I love how open he was to talk about his life, his experience, and his struggles, mostly with alcohol, mostly with drinking. He did, as he would say, dabble in drugs. And something that I want to make very clear with these episodes, people are going to come on and they're going to share their experience. They're going to share their experience and what it was that got them through and to the other side. So it's important for everyone to know that you've got to chart your own path. Just because something works for one person might not work for you. So know that that's something that you've just really got to be able to stay open to wherever you are on your journey. I think these days with social media, it's easy for us to compare. And what you always see on social media isn't always what it seems. A lot of people have sort of said that to me since I've moved back to Butler, that, oh, wow, your life, you had this amazing life. And I did. I've had an amazing life, and I'm going to continue to have an amazing life. But it doesn't mean that it was perfect or easy. And of course they realize that. But, you know, a little fun fact about me, I worked in fitness for 12 years. I started in New York City at a bar studio called Physique 57. And about a year in there, I was recruited by SoulCycle. And that's where things really started to take off. I went through my training in Manhattan, and then the conversation of me moving to California came up. They were opening studios in LA, and I ended up in California. And my time out there was remarkable. It was interesting driving in January with my window down, and I'm like, it's 72 degrees outside. This isn't normal, but I like it. I'm not complaining. I like it. But I do like seasons, right? I do like those moments of there's snow outside. I'm going to stay nice and cozy and have a reason to cuddle up on the couch and watch a movie. So I'll take what I can get these days, but it was a really wonderful experience living in California. It also took me to San Diego, and it took me to Boston as well. And coming back to Butler, having the conversations about my life, I want to start sharing a little bit more about that. When I first moved to New York, I didn't have anything. I didn't even have a job when I moved to New York. I took 2 suitcases. I actually took the train because that's all I could afford. I had rented an apartment from a friend who was sort of, her leases were crossing over. So she had a month where she's like, am I going to pay double rent? And at that time she thought, well, I guess I'm going to pay double rent. And here I came. I rented her apartment for 1 month so I could get to the city, get a job. I had no furniture. I had no AC. It was August. I had a sheet that I laid on the floor that I slept on. Luckily there was carpet. So at least I had that. I had a pillow and then another sheet and a fan. It sucked. It was not great, but I was in New York and I was young. I was in my 20s. And the first thing I did was go into Times Square and get a job because I thought, I go to Times Square and get a job. I didn't know anything about New York and not thinking, I really don't want to work at Bubba Gum Trip. I actually worked there for like 3 days and they were just, I'll be honest, they were not nice. The people that were training me were just terrible. And I'm like, I don't want to work here. So I walked across the street. I got a job at Swatch. I actually sold a watch to Lindsay Lohan's sister for TRL. That was fun. When TRL was still a thing. Who remembers that? Shout out TRL. And then I started working at a comedy club in Times Square called Ha! Exclamation point. Yeah, that was fun. Not really. No, it was fun. I met a lot of amazing people in that job and learned a lot about myself. And obviously I made really good money. So when you're in New York, you just got to pound the pavement. You've got to find the job that's going to get you the money so you can get to the dance classes and get the headshots and have time to take off work for the auditions. And that's what I was doing. Got into fitness. So, you know, I think it's the point of me sharing this with you today is you have to start somewhere, right? And that start is probably going to look a little ugly. It's not going to be fun. You're not going to like it. You're not going to want to do it, but you have to start somewhere. And that was one of the biggest messages I took from this episode, especially. Josh made a really great point of realizing that something had to change. And he knew that one thing wasn't enough. He had to make many changes to his life. So his story, I'm really excited to get in this episode. So let's just get to it today with Josh Bobby sharing his personal story. Have you always smoked cigarettes now?
Since I was like a teenager.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I look at it like this. You're going to laugh whenever I tell you this, but like, so like cigarettes is like adult baby binkies. Okay, so I'll explain this. Now cigarettes is very addictive, but cigarettes for me is like my adult baby binky. So whenever like things ain't going real good, or I'm stressed, or I'm angry, or whatever, like blasting cigarettes is like calming and soothing. Like when a baby's all fussy and crying, you stick that thing in their mouth and then they're chilling. Yeah, same thing. Okay. My baby sister's always on my case about
about smoking.
About the smoking.
Well, because she's super healthy.
Well, yeah, and I always look at her and I'm like, I used to smoke crack. I'm like, I used to drink 30 packs every day by myself. Like, can I just have my cigarettes and be like left alone? Like, can I just be like chilling and it not be like an issue? Like, can I just have like my one thing that's bad for me still? Because I gave up so many other things that were bad for me. Yeah.
That's fair, right?
So like, can I just have, and then that's how I started explaining to people. I'd be like, if you don't want anyone to die today, let me have my adult baby binky. You don't want me to like flip out, scream, yell, act like an idiot.
Okay.
Give me my baby binky and I'm good to go.
Okay. That's fair. I think that's fair.
I think it's super fair.
She likes to take care of people, right?
Oh yeah.
So I think that's
where she got all them dogs and all them cats.
Yeah, that's where she's gonna love this and be like, so Josh and I talked about all your dogs and cats.
No, her dogs and cats. So her one cat, the black one, I've not met him. Okay. Because I'm like super crazy busy all the time. I mean, like this morning I was like running around, like I did all kinds of stuff this morning from like when I got up at 8:30 and I was like, I put like 60 miles on my truck already today.
Wow.
Like running and going and doing this and, doing my thing. So I've not stopped to meet this new cat that she had, but her one dog, Theo, that's my homie. The little Pomeranian.
Oh
yeah.
Oh, you're homies with the Pomeranian?
Oh yeah.
I love that.
Oh, he's my dude.
Okay.
That little Pomeranian that she has, Theo, anytime I'm around that dog, like he's my buddy. Because I like dogs. They just having pets isn't for me.
Okay.
It's not my thing. Because like my work schedule's kind of, not.
It doesn't warrant for you to have a dog. I mean, what you work. So tell us where you work. Tell everybody where you work.
So I've worked at UPS for almost 20 years.
Okay. And you've always been a delivery driver?
I didn't start as a delivery. Nobody gets lucky enough to just walk in there and start as a delivery guy. You have to like work in like the warehouse as a, loading trucks or, computer clerk or whatever. But I mean, it's all like, they're all union jobs. And then you like earn your position to be a driver.
And that's what everybody wants to do, right? Is to be a driver. I mean, do you think, or?
I mean, not everybody. I mean, there's some people that work there that like, they're just there because it's like, okay, like one of the things I see that's real common that we have working there now are women whose husbands have like a full-time job and he's like the primary support person of their family and they work there in the evening. Like after their husband comes home from work, he like takes the kids and then they work there in the evening or they work the morning shift like while he's sleeping. So that's kind of a good thing. And like the health insurance benefits for part-time employees are incredible. So there are some people that work
if you're looking for a job. I mean, UPS, right?
Yeah.
It's a great company to work for. You've been there 20 years. So
in 3 months, like less than 3 months, it'll be 20 years.
Wow, that's awesome. So we're sitting down today with Josh Bobby, who we went to high school together, but I don't think we didn't hang out in high school, did we? No, I mean, we knew each other.
Yeah, I kind of like, when I was a high school kid, I kind of did my own thing. Like I had like the dudes I hung around with that I skateboarded with and like the dudes I played ice hockey with. And I was afraid of girls whenever I was that age. So
I was afraid of boys too.
So like
so there you go.
Yeah. So like if some girl would have like approached me in the hallway and tried to talk to me in school, I'd have got scared and like been out of there. I'd have been like, nah, this ain't for me.
Okay, that's fair. So just a little bit of your backstory growing up. So you did mention skateboarding. I think I knew you as a skateboarder. Like we're like, those are skateboarding dudes.
Yeah, everybody knew us as that. Yeah, because like one of the things about skateboarding is like it's one of those things that it's like kind of like sets the trends for like if you look at like, we'll just say like fashion, for instance, and I am not real big on it. I pretty much wear dirty jeans and flannels all the time. That's like my thing.
It's okay.
But if you look at, say, like men's fashion, what skateboarders were wearing, like, oh, I messed that up. What skateboarders were wearing like 3 years ago is what'll be in style today. Like skateboarding kind of like, and if you look like Van shoes, for instance, Van shoes was a skateboard shoe. And like now it's like the most popular shoe company out there, maybe next to Nike, but yeah, like growing up a skateboarder was awesome. I'm still, a lot of the dudes I grew up skating with whenever I was a teenager, them dudes are still my buddies to this day.
That's cool. Not a lot of people can say that, I think. Sometimes you always have that one person, that you stay in contact with, but a lot of you stayed around this area too, so that probably helped. Yeah.
I got there's like 5 or 6 guys that I've been friends with my whole life. I mean, I'm still friends with a dude that like was my very first friend I ever made on my first day of school.
That's cool.
As a kindergartner, I mean, like him and I are still friends to this day.
That's cool.
You know, and I'm still friends with dudes that I became friends with when I was 12, 13, up until my late teens. Those are dudes that I still hang out with on the regular every day. Like that's one of the things that like growing up skateboarding did for me is it gives you bonds with people that I don't want to say are unbreakable because that's a bit of a broad term. These dudes are still my tightest friends to this day, and some of us, we're 44, 45 years old, and those are still dudes I talk to every day. I hang out with
That's
on the
awesome.
regular, I mean, I'm very, very grateful to growing up skateboarding. And I like trying to think, I got into skateboarding because of the Back to the Future movie.
Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense.
Like, I remember seeing that and being like, oh my, like just watching him like cruise on and being like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever. And some of the older kids that lived down the street from me had skateboards, and the one dude, I can't remember his name was Eric, and he had an extra one, and he'd like let me cruise around on it. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is great.
That's awesome.
And
I love that. Good plug. Back to the Future. If you haven't seen it, what are you even doing with your life? So, right?
Yeah. I haven't I don't watch television anymore. I retired from watching television in, I'm trying to think, 2018.
Well, it's interesting that you just said 2018, huh?
Yeah. A lot of things changed for me in 2018. 2018 was like the year that I was like, all right, everything's changing, and I'm going to do everything I can to make my life better. But you have to to change your life, you have to really change it. You can't just change like one or two things. And then, one of the things I gave up was television. Like people will ask me like, oh, have you watched such and such show? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Like what was a real popular show people were into like last year or the year before was like Ozark or something like that?
Well, there's Ozark, there's Stranger Things, there's a lot of
shows. Then there was this other one called Tombstone or something like that.
Yeah.
Never seen any of them.
Yeah. You talked about the Butler Italian Festival with me.
Yeah.
And you talked about Mike, your buddy Mike, and you also talked about a fight that you had with your son.
Yeah, so like myself, like being like a severe substance abuser, like it isn't like, it's kind of strange for me now because like you see it on social media all the time where people like talk about like being sober is like the new cool thing recently. And I've been like fighting with this like drug and alcohol addiction my entire life. Like I remember being like a 17-year-old and like drinking on a Tuesday night. But yeah, you were saying about like 2018. So 2018, I was going through a lot of really difficult things in life. Like I had so much on my plate that like I don't know how to deal with it. So it was just like drink and drink and drink and drink. And so what happened was I ended up at like the Butler Italian Festival with some of my friends, and I just got like blacked out drunk. Like the drunkest I mean, like I'm talking like I would already get like falling down drunk. And I got just like blacked out drunk to the point that like I woke up the next day and I was going to be late for work. And like, I just remember thinking to myself, like, that was the day that I was like, all right. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Wow. And like, I mean, there's so much backstory to it because I've been to like so many rehabs and gone to like a lot of different support group things and been to like mental health therapy. And while I was like getting sobered up, like I remember before that whole thing went down with me going to the Italian Fest and me getting completely hammered and blacking out and not remembering almost anything that happened that day, I was already in like mental health treatment. And between the mental health treatment and my really good friend Mike, confronted me about a week and a half before I sobered up. And he was like, basically said to me like that I was blowing it and I was ruining my life and I needed to get it together. One of the things I learned about friendship is like your real friends will call you out whenever you're screwing up.
Yeah.
When you're screwing up, your real friends will be the ones to like give you that tough love. Your real friends will be the ones to like call you out on it. And I remember like the conversation that we had like kind of broke my heart. I mean, I won't go into like crazy details on it, but it was, I mean, he called me out and he called me out hard, and it was exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
But also this therapist that I was seeing had kind of told me around the same time that I had so much outside stuff on my plate that I was never going to be able to figure out how to get any of it resolved without quitting drinking first.
Yeah.
You know, and like when you're as severe of a substance abuser as I am, and it goes like real deep. I mean, it goes into like, there ain't a substance on this earth that I've not tried that's an illicit substance or whatever you want to call it. All of them. All right. All of them. You know, people would always be like, what's your drug of choice? And I'd be like, oh, I'm a garbage can. I'd be like, oh, I'm a garbage can. Like if it changes the way I feel about myself, I want some, you know, but but that therapist, and between him and my buddy Mike, they both like, unbeknownst to either of them. And I give my friend Mike a lot more of the credit because like he really came at me in a kind of way that was harsh. It was harsh. But I remember waking up that day after that and thinking in my head, like, my therapist's right, Mike's right. Like, I got to change my life, and I got to change it like today. Like, I got to start like today. Because like the drinking was so bad that like in a period of a couple months, it went from like being able to drink 30 packs, like literally a whole 30 pack by myself in a day, to 5 or 6 drinks put me in a total blackout.
Wow.
I'd be complete, and that's like a telltale sign that like your liver doesn't work anymore, or it's not working, or it's function. You know, like I never went and got it tested. All right, because I quit, and usually,
but if you had, it probably would have been.
Yeah, my liver numbers would have
been not so great.
Yeah, they would have been not so great. I mean, but like through that, I just like kind of decided that I was like, okay, like, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. So I just got to make it through like today and not do this. And that's like every day when I wake up since then, it's always just my thought process about it's been like very simple. It's been like, just don't drink today. Let everything else work itself out. And eventually all those problems that I had in my life, because I stopped drinking, I eventually became like mentally competent enough to be able to deal with them. And I had to deal with each one of them individually at a time. Because if you like have problems in your life and you look at like the whole big scale of it, it looks insurmountable.
Yeah.
But if you just like chip away at it a little bit, you can get it all cleaned up. And now I'm at a place in my life where it's like the beginning of 2024. And like, I mean, like last year, 2023 was like the best year I've ever lived in my entire life.
That's awesome.
You know, like it legitimately was. But like, I didn't just get to that point like all of a sudden. I mean, it took a lot of work, and I had to go through a lot of things, and I had to go through like a lot of changes and sacrifices in my life to where like it's harder than I make it look. Some people that I know are like, wow, you just make like being sober look so easy. Cause like,
you're like, no.
I mean, like last night, I went to the bar last night, and I wouldn't recommend this to like sober people, but like I still need to like socialize like a little bit, and I like to shoot pool. When I grew up on a pool table, my grandfather had one my entire childhood. He started teaching us when we were like 3-4 years old. I was at the bar last night and shot a couple games of pool. I was there for an hour and I left. I didn't drink a drop.
But you have said like that's something that you can recognize, like why you're going there. You're not going there to drink, right? You're going there, like you just said, you're going there to play pool, and you need that human connection. You need human connection in addiction, especially, and in recovery is huge. Well,
human connection in it is like, there's good human connection in it, and then there's bad human connection.
Yeah.
You have to decide like which is which. And a lot of people because like there were times in my life I was sober before where like I was sober from the age of like, how old was I? I was 23 till I was like 31.
Okay.
And
And that's like completely like,
oh yeah. Like I'm one of them people where like, I don't do that like sober except weed or like whatever that some people do.
Yeah.
Where people, or I see a lot of times where people say that they're clean, but like they got a beer in their hand and they just, they just haven't like shot up a bunch of bags of dope in 6 months and they call themselves clean. To like real sober people like me, like I consider that insulting in a way.
I mean, you can say that because you've lived it.
Absolutely.
So, and that's your prerogative, right?
Yeah,
like that is your.
But like, hats off to those people. Like, if you're somebody that can like not shoot up a bunch of drugs or like smoke a bunch of crack or whatever, and like still like have some beers every now and then, hats off to you. But I can't do it because alcohol is the gateway drug. They always remember when we was teenagers, they always said marijuana is the gateway drug. It's the biggest lie out of all of it. The gateway drug's alcohol.
Because that was the first thing you did, right?
Oh,
you told me that story about the first. So it was the first time you tried beer.
Oh, so I'll never forget it. I mean, it was like kind of like, it was an incredible experience. So me and some of the neighbor kids got off the bus. I think it was like the last day of 4th grade, I think it was. And the one kid that lived up the road, his dad had like a beer tapper in his basement and the fridge with the handle coming out of it,
the kegerator.
Yeah. All right. So he had that and kid was like, "You want to go to my house and drink some of my dad's beer?" And I grew up around grown men drinking all the time. Like it was a very normal thing for like my dad and the neighbor guys to like be hanging out on like a Saturday at like 3 p.m. and be like drinking beers and joking around and having a good time. It was a very normal thing for me to watch as a kid. So I wanted to be like them dudes. I thought those dudes were awesome. They all rode motorcycles and they were like, they all, like I idolized those guys growing up, my dad and his friends. I thought they were the coolest dudes ever. So then it's like kids like, well, let's go to my dad's and let's drink some beer out of this cake, out of his fridge. He'll never know it's gone. And I was like, yeah. I was like, absolutely.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I remember like filling up my first one and like you just stick it under there. You think it's like a soda, like the soda machine at like McDonald's. You just stick it under there and it was like all this foam and it was like, so you sit there and let it go. And I remember like just pounding that beer and then ended up drinking like, it was like 3 or 4. And the next thing I know, I was like puking in the kitchen sink. And as I'm puking in the kitchen sink, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, this is the most incredible feeling ever. I got to do this again.
Wow.
Or like a normal person, like you do something that makes you sick and you're throwing up. A normal person is going to be like, oh no, I never want to do this again. But at 10 years old, I think maybe I was 10.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, this is the coolest feeling ever. And I want more of this. So that's like kind of where it started. Yeah. And I remember like going home and falling asleep and like thinking in my head, like, I hope like my family doesn't realize that I'm drunk. I never heard anything about it. I mean, I never really told many people like that specific story. I don't even think I ever told, like, because my mom works here with you. Yeah. That might be the first, this might be the first time that she ever hears that story.
Wow.
I don't remember if I've ever told her or not.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and it just like, from that point on, I remember like always kind of being like, seeing like grown adult men like drinking beers and me always thinking like, man, I can't wait till I can do that all the time. But I also grew up around like, I mean, my dad was never like a problem drinker ever.
Yeah.
Ever. My parents were never like that. My mom's father drank all the time and I idolized him. He was awesome. He like when I think about like what a grandfather should be, I always think about him. He was, because my dad's father was dead before I was born. But my mom's dad, he always drank whiskey. He always drank beer. He had tattoos, and he wore dark blue jeans and boots all the time. Mm-hmm. And I just thought he was the coolest human that ever walked the face of the earth.
Yeah.
All right. But he drank all the time. I mean, I can't even remember a time not seeing that man not drinking.
Okay.
So to me, that was normal. So then I remember like as a kid thinking, like you think in your head, like you want to grow up and be like these dudes that you idolize. Well, he was probably the one I idolized the most. All he did was drink all the time. So for me, that's normal. Now I've come to find as, 44-year-old man that drinking beer and whiskey all the time from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed is not normal.
Is not normal.
No, not at all.
Yeah. The other thing that you said too was with that was that you found like acceptance In your group of friends that you had never had before.
Yes. I found a level of acceptance with the dudes that I like became friends with as a teenager skateboarding that I'd never had anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But with that lifestyle comes like, now lots of teenagers go out and party.
Yes.
But us skateboarders, we took it to like a whole excess to the point where like, I can remember going places and people would be like, no, you guys can't be here. We'd be like, what do you mean?
I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but like, yeah, there was that. There definitely was that stigma, right?
Yeah,
you had that you were bad
because we were.
Yeah,
we were. Like, I mean, like we were.
Yeah,
you know.
You're taking ownership over it. Yeah.
Oh, I'm huge on self accountability.
Yeah.
I operate on it. Like if I screw something up, I'll be the first person to be like, "Oh man, I screwed that up."
Yeah.
You know, I have no.
And that's huge. That's a huge example to set for young people, right? And you skateboard, right, with a lot of like young people.
Oh yeah.
In
I try to show some of them young dudes the way, but also like you got to let people figure it out on their own too.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let people like take their lumps. And then like if people like take their lumps and then they like see an older dude like myself
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't drink, that doesn't party, that like I'm not getting arrested. And like, I mean, one of my favorite things that has happened a couple times recently the last couple of years is getting pulled over by the cops and not getting a DUI.
Wow, why'd they pull you over for? Like right on red or something?
No, one time.
Like,
so I'm a professional driver, so I like have a level of driver training that is beyond what normal people have.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the
company
company
you drive all the time.
Yeah, but they beat it into our heads, like to the point that like I just do it. I don't even have to think about it. I just drive a vehicle the way I've learned to do it for my job.
Yeah.
The one time I got stopped I had a burned out headlight. And it was the night of, I'm trying to think, remember like, it was like 3 years ago when there was that, who did Mike Tyson have a exhibition boxing match with that was on pay-per-view?
Oh, I
can't remember who it was that he had. Maybe it was Roy Jones Jr. I can't remember who it was. But it was the night of this exhibition match, and like everybody was juiced up about it, and a bunch of us went to a buddy of mine's house in Allison Park to watch it. And when I was on my way there, I was driving there, and I was like, and I had like this SUV at the time, and I was driving, and I was like, my headlights look like they ain't working real good. So I pulled off in the parking lot at like Sheetz by the Clearview Mall, got out and was like, oh, I got a headlight out. And I was like, oh, well, I'll fix it tomorrow. Well, the vehicle that I had to fix a headlight on it, you had to take the tire off, and then you had to pull the wheel well out.
Oh.
So it was like...
It was a process. It's like...
because if it was the type of vehicle where you can just pop the hood and the light's right there, I'd have just continued down Route 8, went right to Advanced Auto, bought a headlight, changed it in the parking lot, no problem. Well, this vehicle that I had, you literally had to take wheel out. It was a huge process to change a headlight, kind of pain in the neck.
Well, and most people, I mean, you do that because you rebuild motorcycles and you do a lot of that stuff. So
slowly learning how to do that. Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. But back to
But I mean, like most normal people be like, oh, my headlight's out, I'll get it fixed tomorrow. That's what most people are going to do.
Exactly it. Is I was just like, headlights out. I just figured out, I was like, first thing tomorrow, I was like, I'll fix it. You know, I go and I watch the fight, and then I'm on my way home, and I'm like 3 miles from home, and I'm cruising up Route 8, and I see a police car sitting in the parking lot. Next thing I know, he pulls out behind me, and I'm like, well, I wasn't speeding. And I'm like, I got the headlight out. He lights me up, cherries and berries, you know? All right,
cherries and berries.
Lights me up, cherries and berries. All right. And
there's a new one for you, cherries and berries. I like that.
I learned that. A buddy of mine said that to me one time about 6 years ago, and I was like, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's funny. Head. I like it. Yeah.
But he lights me up, comes up to and I'm like, great. I'm like, here we go. I'm like, I'm pulled over. And the first thing I thought of was like, man, a bunch of years ago, you'd be getting a DUI right now. You'd be hit. You'd be going to jail tonight. Mm-hmm. I've been.
But you knew you didn't have that. You were like, well, I'm good there.
First question. He didn't ask me for license and registration when he come up to the window.
He asked if you'd been drinking.
You've been drinking tonight. First question. And I was like, no. I was like, actually, at the time, I'm trying to think. This was like 2 years ago. So I've been sober. Maybe I've been sober about 3 years because this whole kind of similar situation happened twice within a year.
Mm-hmm.
I looked this state police officer right in the eye and was like, no, I've been sober for like 3 years. And he's kind of like had this like little bit of a look of defeat on his face. And then I grabbed my registration and handed it to him. He went and he did his thing and away I went. And he was like, get your headlight fixed. And I explained to him, I was like, oh, I would have fixed it tonight, but like I got to take the tire and the wheel well off to do it. And I wasn't doing it in the dark, you know? And then it was probably 6 or 8 months later, real similar situation, but I got pulled over for a little bit of a different reason. And I was even closer to where I lived at the time. I could like see the back of my house from where they had me pulled over. It was funny.
Oh.
Driving up the road,
mm-hmm.
and it was kind of late. It was like 1 in the morning, and I was like, I mean, it's like that time that like the police officers out there, they're looking for that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
And I got a car behind me, and like I'm a sober person, so like I don't care. I'm just driving.
Yeah,
I don't care. I'm just driving, smoking a cigarette. Pulled a cigarette out the window. As soon as that cigarette went out the window, lit me up. And I was like, huh. I was like, and so then I pull over. Same thing. Mm-hmm. First thing police officer says to me, you've been drinking tonight. And I was like, no.
Nope.
And I was like, no, I've been sober for years. I was like, and that's like, as silly as it sounds, like that's a reward of a behavior change because that's 2 times. That
had to feel good, right?
Oh yeah, looking. I mean, and like considering that I've been arrested a whole bunch of times in my life, like I still, even though I'm a sober person, like I see police lights behind me, and I'm all kind of always like, just because it's like.
Well, that could probably be like a little bit of a trigger, right?
Well,
do you think?
Maybe, but like I over my life because of like drugs and alcohol, I've had so many police entanglements that even whenever I know that like the worst thing that's going to happen is like maybe a minor traffic citation, still in the back of my mind, I'm like, uh-oh, here we go. Mm-hmm. Here we go. It's, it's going to be, my mind immediately goes back into that just because like I lived that lifestyle for so long.
Yeah.
But this police officer, it was like, same thing. It was like, no, I've been sober for a long time. He went back, ran the thing, and he had to look at defeat too. And I even said to him, like, he thought he was getting an easy DUI when I flicked that cigarette out the window. And he's like, absolutely, I did. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and he like looked at, had my license and stuff. And he, saw the street I lived on and he knows it's right up the road. And he was like, yeah, you're pretty close to home. He's like, you just go ahead and get yourself home and have a good night. And I like cruising, but it was like, for me, real grateful knowing that like, oh, I can get stopped by the cops at 1 a.m. and not get silver bracelets.
Yeah.
Like that in itself. Now to a lot of.
And you get to go home. You're like, I'm going home. I'm sleeping in my bed.
Yeah. I mean, sleeping in a jail cell overnight's not fun. It's not.
And you've done that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's not fun. It's not a fun experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, metal and hard and cold and no, it's not fun. Not fun.
Are you typically, when you're in that situation, when you were in that situation, are there like other people? Is it one of those things that you see on TV where there's a bunch of people in one big thing all together, or are you by yourself, or does it depend?
Holding cell, you're usually just by yourself.
Yeah.
Usually.
Okay.
At least in my experience.
Yeah. Okay.
And like the little bit of time that I did at like the county jail, like I was in a cell by myself.
Yeah. Okay.
But like that was like a really small stretch of time in there. Mm-hmm. Nothing like, nothing to sit there and say like, to like, oh, I did all this time. No, I didn't. It was like 4 days or something like that. It wasn't anything crazy.
Still though, 4 days is still
4 days without a cigarette. That was terrible.
You're like, okay, guys, listen.
I did the walk of shame. I did the walk of shame out the county that time, and my dad bailed me. My dad posted my bond, and I remember like them giving me my stuff back and me seeing the pack of Marlboros and being like, oh, I can't wait to have one of those. And as soon as I walked out the door of the jail, light up a cigarette, and my dad was like super mad at me that he had to come down. Of course,
yeah.
Because I'm like, I was
gonna say, how old were you?
I was like 32.
Okay.
He had to come down and post my bond on that one. And I got about 3 puffs out of that cigarette. And he was like, put that cigarette out, get in the truck. And I was just like, yes, sir. Like,
yeah. What were you going to do? Right.
Yeah. Walk. I'm glad I don't have to do that no more either. Like getting out of like getting picked up at the station by one of your family members is not fun. Getting picked up at the station by my dad specifically is not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah. I imagine that's not a good.
Not because my dad's anybody that knows him will tell you that he's a man of few words. So when he don't quite have the gift of gab like I do. I get that from my mother.
The gift of gab.
Yeah.
Everyone. You heard it here.
But so when he has something to say, you better be all ears. If he's giving me the business on that on something like that, you better pay attention to what he's got to say. And like a lot of my close friends, they'll say the same thing about him. They'll be like, he's a man of few words, but when he's talking, you better listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like all that kind of stuff. Like I'm glad that like I don't have to like live my life in that like constant fear of law enforcement that people with substance abuse problems have. I mean, and then there's like the whole death aspect of it too.
Right.
I mean, like
that this could be the time that it could kill you, right? You could overdose and that would be it.
Well, I mean, like I haven't done like heroin or anything like that in 2 decades.
Okay.
But like now this fentanyl stuff that's on the street now is just dropping people like flies. I mean, like you're seeing people that have been junkies for decades dying from this stuff. Like this fentanyl that's on
bad.
The street, it's bad.
The thing about Narcan, and this is a conversation we're having all season, is it's readily available to anybody, right? Like I could go and I could carry Narcan on me just knowing how to administer it. Yeah. It's not going to hurt someone. It could save their life.
To me is like being that I like lived that life before. The fact that you can like just buy Narcan is strange to me.
Okay.
Like that's strange to me that you can like just buy it and carry it with you now. But also like I get it why. Because like, I mean, people are dying left and right. And like, I mean, if that's what's going to save people's lives and like maybe give them a chance.
Yes. Maybe that's the time that they actually, really go to recovery. And because that's the thing, the percentage of someone recovering every time they go back to recovery or they keep, relapsing and they go back to recovery, the percentage goes up.
Yeah.
The percentage of them being sober goes up.
Yeah. Like
every single time.
Like, so I've been sober almost 5.5 years. It's like 5 years and a couple months.
Okay.
Something like that.
Okay.
Like I've been like my 5th anniversary was the end of this past August.
Okay. Okay.
I got a much better hold of it on things now than I did the other times that I tried sober before. I was sober 7 years one time, and I was sober 2 years.
Like 23 to 31.
Yeah, and then after that, I was sober 2 years again, and then started to drink again and party again. But you gain more with anything in life. You gain more experience as you get older.
Yeah, and
I learned the things that were like the triggers on me.
That's huge too. That's like, a big thing. What were, do you want to talk about that?
Oh yeah. So like one of the big ones for myself, and I see this with a lot of people, is emotional connections to other humans is a big trigger. All right, that at least for myself, just in my experience. I mean, and like a lot of people ask me, like, because I've been single for a very long time. One of the reasons that I am is it's a way to protect being sober.
Yeah,
because like emotion, at least, and this is just for myself, emotional connections with other humans have tended to be the things that like crushed me enough to decide like, all right, well, I hurt so bad that the only thing I know that takes the pain away is to drink, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. So like, that's one of the things, and I'm not saying that like, I'm like going to be single forever or anything like that. Like, that's not where but I'm saying
to the single ladies.
Oh, no, don't even start.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
But, yeah, I mean, that's something that, you said therapy really helped you a lot because that was like your toolbox, right? Therapy was your toolbox.
Between that and like my past experience in being in like certain forms of like recovery that they have, I had all the experience. So it was like having an old set of tools in your toolbox on the shelf in your garage that you haven't used in a while. They still work. That set of tools, like, they still work.
Yeah.
All right. Like, if you pull out that socket set off the shelf and you need to take apart some nuts and bolts, like, that tool set will still work. Like, you still have it. You just have to apply it.
Yeah.
So there was some of that too. And like the mental health therapist that I saw helped me sort through some of my other issues that I had in between my ears that were outside of drug and alcohol addiction. Like, one of the things that I had to learn, and I don't want to sit here and say I've mastered it, but I'm very good at it, is self-control.
Okay.
When you're sober. And also, I think it's just like a man thing also, that you have to learn how to have a level of self-control and a level of control over your emotions at all times. And that's something that I lacked in my previous attempts at getting sober. Was I lacked self-control, and especially self-control over my emotions as a human. Because like, women will show emotions through things like crying and stuff like that. I'm not. No, I'm sorry. Just saying generally.
I was interested to hear what you were going to say.
Well, I was trying to word it in a way that like
it's true though. We are emotional creatures, right?
Yeah. So men, we show negative emotions through like anger and violence. Okay, like I just feel like we're biologically that way, and I had to learn to control myself to where like my level of anger does not become violence, does not become, a way that so that I don't conduct myself in a way that I now feel like is unacceptable.
Got it.
So learning how to control those things makes being sober easier, because like, I just learned that like, if you don't let things bother you, if you don't care, then you can't get like all worked up about it. What is it that gets people like me wasted again?
Yeah.
Is like allowing those things to eat away at you. We're like, I only care about like a handful of things in life. I try to keep it really, really, really simple. I just care about like going to work, because that's how I like finance my life. I care about like hanging out with my buddies, and I like fishing, and I like skateboarding, and I like motorcycles, So like, those are the things that are in like my bucket. Those are the things I care about the most. So I focus on those, but I can't do any of that stuff if I like don't have like control over myself. So I like, in a way, conduct myself with that, because then I don't like lose my shit. The people that I work for, the guys and girls that I report to directly, my bosses, they were there for me through like a lot of that really hard times. I mean, like, I sit back and think about it all the time. Like,
that's cool.
In 2017, they should have fired me like 3 times. For real. From like the beginning of 2017 to like middle till like the end of summer 2018. I mean, legit, they should have probably fired me like 3 times.
Wow.
And they stuck with me because they knew I was like going through some really difficult things, and so grateful that they did.
Stick with you, support you.
But they also like, so I had talked about like going and seeing that mental health therapist, and I saw that therapist. It was like 9 months. It was like, at first my appointments were either on, I think they were on Tuesday nights. And the therapist scheduled me like his last appointment at like 8:00, and it was in Wexford. My bosses, before I started seeing that guy, they knew I was a mess. All right. And they pushed me, like gently pushed me into being like, dude, like, you're a mess. Like, why don't you like And a couple conversations happened with them about, then they were like pushing me to like get some mental health treatment, like to go get, because I had so much on my plate at one time. So I'm like, really, really grateful, because I probably would have never done it had they not
been sort of.
Yeah. And they were like, look, they're like, if you get in and start seeing somebody, they're like, you schedule your appointments for in the evening and we will make sure that you're done with your route and in and clocked out in enough time to get there. I live by this one saying, you become what you feed your brain. So like if you feed your brain like positive, good things, eventually you start living it.
Yeah.
But I'll get back to that in a second. But so shout out to my bosses at my job for sticking with
That's
me
awesome.
whenever there were a couple times that they absolutely should have. I mean, now I'm in a union, so them firing me would have probably, it's a process. They
it would have
been,
like, yeah.
Yeah, they don't just like roll in and be like, you screwed up real bad, you're fired. Like there's a process to it. But like, just for my own, like, the way I look at it, I just tell myself like, oh man, they should have fired me a couple times, because it helps me to like be grateful that I still work there. And like now, like I show up for my job and like, I'm like the employee that like, I fly so much under the radar that I don't even like talk to them guys unless I have to. They never get phone calls from me. I just show, because I'm so grateful that I still work there after what I went through for like a 1.5 year period. I'm so grateful that they stuck with me when I was at like the lowest point of my life. Yeah. That I just go into work and I deliver my route and I keep my mouth closed, say anything that I try to not be like a problem employee or any of that stuff. I just like, because like it's just a job, but it like finances my life. So I'm just like, I'm grateful to have it. And especially after what I went through, even more grateful to have it. A substance abuser, regardless of what your substance of choice is, if you don't get yourself involved in doing other things that like really get you juiced up, I always say like idle hands is the devil's workshop. Yeah. If you're just like sitting around doing nothing and watching TV and like not like involved in whatever it is that you enjoy, if you're not doing it, then like them idle hands gets the brain going, and once the brain gets going and it starts going into like that dark place, you're going down a path that's hard to come back from. Because also like having other times in my life that I was sober, it's harder to go back to it because you have to admit defeat. You have to admit that like you thought for 1 minute that like you could like drink beers and hang out with and do the kind of things that like quote unquote normal people do. So you went back and you tried it out again and you failed miserably. Yes. Growing up, skateboarding set me on a pathway that it led me into that kind of a lifestyle, kind of, sort of. I probably would have became an alcoholic anyways had I not skateboarded. But like, I'm so grateful for skateboarding too, because when I was like trying to get sober this time, I didn't have any hobbies. Yeah. Right? And I did play ice hockey and stuff most of my life, but like I getting to the point where I was like too old for it. Like my hips are destroyed from it. That skateboard was like my saving grace when I was 38 years old or 39 years old, I think. Yeah, 39 years old and trying to get sober again. That skateboard was my saving grace. And I actually like the first couple years I was sober, I actually skated the best I ever skated my whole life. Wow. One of my good friends even said that to me at one point. He was like, man, he was like, you're skating better than you ever did when we were teenagers. He's like, this is the best I've ever seen you skate. Yeah. And I took that as a compliment, but that was cool. Also like being a sober person, but I didn't have anything else to focus on. So I just focused on skateboarding. And then like I got reconnected with one of my buddies that was into old motorcycles. And now I'm into like these old Harleys and building those things and riding those things. And that's super fun because riding a motorcycle is just like riding a skateboard, but it's faster. Yeah. It's the same like feeling of freedom. Yes. It's that same feeling of freedom with like the wind in your face. And, through skateboarding, I made a lot of great friends. And the same thing happens with like motorcycles. Through motorcycles, you make a lot of great friends because you got all the same things in common. And also, I'm going to be 45 this year. Like, I can still go skate, but man, am I sore the next day. I'm hurt. Yeah, you're like, well, but it's a reminder that you're alive. Yeah, but I still love it, and I hope I can still be in my 50s and be able to like still go like hop on my skateboard and cruise around, you know. And I have friends that like have taught me things also. I'm trying to like expand my mind, you know, like, I mean, literally a good friend of mine, like I wanted to build a motorcycle, and a real good friend of mine that I've been friends with since I was a teenager, took me under his wing and showed me how to build a motorcycle at his house. And we worked on it every weekend for like 9 months. Every weekend I was at his house. But now I have like this great relationship with his kids. His kids think I'm their uncle. The bond that we have over building that motorcycle, that like we still are building them. I got some projects going on right now. He's got some projects going on. And, you know, I got a couple other buddies that are into it also, and they got projects going on. And like, it's just like when we used to skate together when we were younger, but it's just like now it's like motorcycles. They kind of like tapped into a creativeness that I didn't know I had. They showed me this, and it tapped into like a creativeness that I didn't know I had. And then, I mean, and also amazing. Like building motorcycles, like playing with Legos. Just like playing with Legos when you're a kid. Like if you got the right set, you got the right pieces, you can put it all together. So I'm so fortunate that I've had these friends of mine that when I was like completely broken, I mean, because like in 2018, I was a broken human. It was as bad as it can get. And these friends of mine, they all took me under their wing, and they all started teaching me new things that like, now these are the things that like set my soul on fire. I mean, like I'm into it. Like, I mean, a happy Friday night for me, and this is going to sound so strange, it's just like sitting in my garage, like tinkering with one of those old machines, or like spraying a can of brake cleaner on some old greasy parts and cleaning them off. Like, you know, that's the reason why I did this, is to maybe like, if there's like a handful of people out there that maybe watch this or listen to this or like whatever, and they like think like, oh wow, like, well, that guy got his life together and maybe I can too. That's sweet.
This episode is brought to you by Butler County District Attorney Richard A. Goldinger, R.W. McDonald & Sons Incorporated, Robert Stevens Jewelers. Thank you to our sponsors for your support on our first season of the Alter Ego podcast. Be sure to click the link in bio for your discount for BetterHelp Therapy online. 10% off your first month. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode, and follow us on Instagram at Alter Ego Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to Alter Ego. Join me every Monday for a new episode. Until next time, stay safe, stay hopeful, stay kind.